many other college and university food pantries that you might hear about, it'll be behind a locked door, or it's only open for these limited
Yes.
hours, and it's staffed by a student.
Yes.
So those could be barriers for somebody
Mm-hmm.
actually using it.
Yeah.
Because of any perceived shame of going
Yeah.
there and having other students see or have to ask permission to get behind that locked door.
Mm-hmm.
So we've decided as a community we want to leave it in that open space, tucked away, but open 24/7.
Welcome back to 50 Faces of Feeding South Dakota. I'm excited for our conversation today. We're going to talk about hunger within an area that people don't always think about, and that's college students. College hunger is a very real thing. And here to share with us today are Joe and Sam from the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Stacy.
Why don't we start a little bit by having you introduce yourselves, talk about your role at the school, and how you've come to have an interest in food insecurity among college kids.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Joe Dlugos, and I serve as the Dean of Students at South Dakota Mines. That's a role I've had for about 3.5 years now. And what that means is about half the time I'm spending time leading a division on campus of professionals who help our students with a variety of things outside of the classroom, whether that's getting involved or handling any challenges. And then the other half of my time, I work directly with the students, and it's really rewarding. Over the last 2 years, we've really noticed more of an uptick of food insecurity, so it's become more of a part of our everyday role.
All right.
Yeah, and I am Sam Harkin. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Engagement, so that does fall under student affairs, like Joe was saying. My office does a variety of things. We are the club and org kind of house, so we help all clubs and orgs on campus. We advise some of those. We make sure they have all the resources they need. We provide leadership opportunities for our students, so we'll do workshops, that type of thing. Pretty much anything outside the classroom. Fun things, we do bowling, we do painting nights, any fun thing we can try to cook up, and we hope they like. And yeah, this has just kind of fallen under our purview as well in the last couple of years. We've kind of really decided to focus on it, but we'll talk about later. We've done the actual food drive for about 15 years,
So I hear what I'm deciphering is your job really is to build community. It's really to help all the kids that are coming to campus get to know other people, get involved in things that they have an interest in, and make sure that they feel like home on campus.
Yep.
All right. And resources, that's something we talk about a lot when we talk about food insecurity. And I find it really interesting that you said in about the last couple years you've really noticed it, because as an organization, we too have noticed that increase in the last couple years. Actually, coming out of COVID, according to Feeding America, they do a research, a Map the Meal Gap research every year, and from the 2021 to 2022, the food insecurity rate in South Dakota went up by about 4%, which was the largest jump since in 1 year since 1980. So at the same time, cost went up 9%, and I've been a college student. I get what it's like. I mean, I know you joke about living on ramen noodles, but it really can be that way. So tell me a little bit about the trends and the things that you have been seeing on campus.
Yeah, and imagine that it aligns perfectly with what us in the community saw when food prices really noticeably increased in, I think you said about 2022.
Yeah.
We've had a campus food pantry here on our campus for several years. And like I shared, I've been here for about 3.5 years. The first year and a half I was here, usage of that was pretty average. And we would fill it and come in a week later and it would still be pretty full.
Yeah.
Around that 2022 standpoint, we would notice that within a weekend, it was gone.
Wow.
Right about the same time that food prices in the community were starting to pay, and everybody was talking about it. So
Yeah.
of course it trickled down to our college students.
Yeah.
And they were using that resource of a food pantry more often.
Do you see it as more of a trend in first-year students or a certain demographic of students, out-of-state students or national students, or is it really just something you're seeing among the population in general?
Yeah, well, definitely in the population in general, but I do have a hunch of some of the more specifics. The last 2 years, we've partnered with a organization called the National College Health Association.
Okay.
And they help us survey our students
All right.
on a variety of health-related topics. Food insecurity is one of those. And I've been very curious about those questions because of what we were seeing with
Absolutely.
the pantry usage. And in the last 2 years, a third of our students responded yes to the question that was somewhere along the lines of, in the last 30 days, I've either run out of food or I didn't eat as much as I wanted to
Wow.
get full because of a shortage of food or funding to buy food. So when you think about, a really successful STEM university, prestigious like South Dakota Mines, and yet a third of our students are saying, yes, in any given month, I struggled. I didn't eat as much as I wanted. So that's kind of the widespread. Probably in situations where I see students using the food pantry or talking about it, tends to be our older students or non-traditional. Our first and second year students, most of them live on campus and they're participating in a required meal plan.
Okay.
So they go to the
Sure.
general cafeteria you would think of and all you care to eat on our meal plan. So they might not need those resources as much as somebody living in an apartment on their own who's having to navigate rent payments,
Yeah.
car payments, and everything else,
Yeah.
tuition.
Or may have a family and is trying to go to school and maybe work a part-time job or full-time
Right.
job, but just still isn't making ends meet.
Right.
So I find that so interesting because when you get into college, you think you're on your path, you're heading forward, you mentioned the meal plan, but we talk a lot about the impacts of hunger on children in school, that children who don't have access to food on a regular basis can have more behavior issues. They can have troubles concentrating and test lower than their peers and things like that. Does that translate very similarly into the college learning experience?
Yeah, I mean, we think it does. Our counselors have talked a lot about that in the past, and they're taking this new approach of kind of a culture, campus of care culture, I should say.
Okay.
And so that those types of things of, hey, this, the fact that they're hungry is
Yeah.
probably impacting them in the classroom, right? Based off of what they say to them. So yeah, I think when I'm hungry, I don't,
Absolutely.
my brain's fuzzy and everything like that.
Yes.
So
yeah, and it doesn't take long. I mean,
No.
if you think about, you get those hunger pains, and I have a sister who gets hangry, so it's kind of a joke that I ask her like on a level of 1 to 4, where are we at? And if she says 2, no matter what we're doing, it's like put everything down, because by the time we get to a restaurant and get something to eat, she's going to be a 3, and you don't want to get there, and you definitely don't want to get to a 4. But when you can satisfy that physical sensation of hunger and remove that distraction of a growling stomach or a mood change, that's one thing. But when you can't, when you're, just waking up hungry and going to bed hungry, it doesn't take long for those physical changes and those cognitive changes, because you're focusing on that one thing. And it can really distract, and I would imagine change that learning experience. So we'll come back to the pantry a second, but aside from the pantry, you mentioned, this campus of care, what other resources have you found as a school that you're putting in place or trying to bring around to help with this?
Yeah, we've been really beneficial. We started this last August, so last academic year, August. We're in the second year now of a program. It's through a nonprofit called Swipe Out Hunger.
Okay.
And how dining works on most college campuses, it's not an in-house, like we don't hire an executive chef to run the cafeteria.
Darn it, I was gonna hang on over to the school and have some lunch, but okay.
So most college campuses, including South Dakota Mines, will partner with a corporation that
Sure.
does this
A food
professionally,
service.
at food service. So our dining provider, they introduced us to this nonprofit and said, hey, we'd love to make some donations so that we can do this Swipe Out Hunger program. Very generous of them. So how that works on our campus, there's a few different programs we participate in. One, which actually gets to your point just a moment ago, it allows, we identified about 10 high traffic offices on the college campus that we have some, kind of hearty snacks that are just available right out in the open at those offices. This is in addition to
No
the food
questions
pantry.
asked. You
Yep.
can just
Yep.
take a snack.
All right. So if students are chatting with Sam, about fraternity and sorority life initiatives, and like, oh, I got to run to class, and I forgot to get breakfast today, she can say, whoa, grab a granola bar and some, some
Yeah.
dried fruit on the way out. So we can kind of fight off that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, those snacks in the high traffic areas. Like I said, it's the second year, about half of those offices it really took off. The other half, nobody really used them. So we were
Okay.
helping to refine, which areas.
Sure.
We also were able to invest in basic cooking supplies for our residence halls. That's where our students sleep and spend their evenings. The way it's set up, most of those hallways, they'll have a community kitchen, either one per floor or maybe one or two per building. But it's kind of always been bring your own pots and pans, bring your own serving utensils. So if any of our students wanted to cook their own meal or as a group go grocery shopping, somebody needed to have
Yeah.
those. So we invested in, now we have those as kind of pantry staples in the residence halls all through that program. The main benefit we see from it, and this is part of the name, the Swipe Out Hunger, is that our food service will donate a certain amount of meal swipes, if you can almost visualize, like
Yep.
on an ID
Yeah.
card,
Yeah.
so that if a student runs out of swipes for their meal plan, or if they didn't have a meal plan because they couldn't afford it, we can donate, put it right on their card, right on their ID. And it's amazing. It's not like a coupon or a voucher
Right.
where they might feel embarrassed to
Sure.
give that to the cashier.
Yes.
It's truly just on their ID, whether that's a physical card or their
Mm-hmm.
phone. They scan in just like any other student and can get lunch or dinner that day.
I'm so intrigued, and there's so many things going through my head right now because, first of all, college has changed a lot since I was there. There was not a kitchen to
Yeah.
cook in, and I think that's really, really great. And I think it's so great that you recognized that those are essential things to fighting food insecurity. Just the tools to help people make food, a can opener, all those things are essential. You can't just say, well, here's a kitchen, so I think that's really great. But I'm thinking of just the dignity that this program provides, where everybody's on that equal playing field, right? I remember back in the day when I was in elementary school, we had meal tickets, like they were perforated tickets, and the students who had a discounted lunch had a different colored ticket than the rest of us, right? And you learn that, and
Right.
you're like, oh, they must be poor, or you make, as kids, you just make these assumptions, and that does carry into college life and adulthood, where you see this differentiator. And so I think it's really cool that it's just sort of something that appears on there, and they're not thinking twice about it. It makes me think of school lunch has been a very hot topic in South Dakota, and these angel funds where people just donate to schools that have these negative lunch account balances, because if students get to a certain point, the school isn't to serve them lunch, right? And nobody wants to see kids go hungry. But I remember also when I was in college on my meal plan, at the end of the semester, if I had extra, I could buy, like we'd go into the cafeteria and buy boxes of granola bars or things like that. So to me, as I look at it now, I would rather have been able to donate those swipes to help other people than go home with 3 boxes of granola bars. So it's a really innovative and cool way to do it.
Yeah.
So then is it the school making the decision about where those free swipes go based on just a variety of factors?
Yeah. We we do have some parameters in place, and there's probably about 25 of us that work closely with Sam and myself, and we kind of given them blanket permission. Hey, here's our protocol. If any student comes and visits with you, and I shouldn't just say we don't just limit it to students. Employees of the School of Mines can also
That's great.
participate. One thing we've talked about, state employees get paid once a month, and if you are brand new to the job and then you learn, wait, I don't get a paycheck for like 4 or 5 weeks, that
Yeah.
could be hard. So it's, they're eligible. So we have some parameters, but anybody in our team, that 25 individuals, if a student approaches any of them, they have the authority to, okay, yes, let's get you some
Let's
meals on there.
Get you some food.
I don't want there to be any red tape of, you have to meet with the dean of students, or
Right.
that would just freeze, and kind of chill the.
And it's an immediate
program.
need. Somebody's hungry now, and they have that need. So do you also connect students with other resources like SNAP opportunities or WIC if it's a young mother or things like that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the parameters. If we see students are continuously coming back for more meal swipes, and then we think, okay, is there a larger issue, a more complex issue, and we'll sit down and talk about some of those resources, do you need help applying for SNAP, or is there something else going on besides the food insecurity? And as long as they're working towards that, then we'll continue with the
Sure.
meal swipes.
Sure. So you mentioned it a little bit earlier, Sam, but the food drive has been a really big part of School of Mines for, you said, 15 years, right? Yep. So tell us just first of all a little bit about what the food drive is and how it got started.
Yeah, sure. So it is a little bit murky, but what we know.
Hey, we're celebrating 50 years this year, and I hear you.
Yeah.
All the way.
Yeah, so it was an initiative originally, the big push for the MLK Day of Service campaign, so the big national campaign. Our Dean of Students at the time really wanted to do something around that, right? Some sort of service on that day instead of everybody taking the day off.
Yes.
To honor MLK's Junior's legacy. So that's kind of how the idea formed. We don't necessarily know who exactly put it in motion. But yeah, so for 15 years, it's the procedures have kind of been the same. So what we do is we contact the local grocery stores in Rapid City. We have expanded to Box Elder now a little bit, just because Timmins has a location in Box Elder and Rapid, so they were willing to let us kind of come to both. But we outreach to them. We say, can our students, stand at the front of the store, hand out little flyers about, kind of what we need, what it's for, why they're here. They do it for about 3 hours, so it's typically in the afternoon on Martin Luther King Junior holiday. This last year, as we know, was very cold. It was like -20 wind chill that day.
Yikes.
So they braved the cold, and it's been, warmer or cold depending on the year. But these students will stand out there. Student organizations are typically what we ask for, but we've had some individuals over the years as well. They bring 5+ at least members, and they really are just gathering food for fellow students, if you think about it, which is really cool because they're giving back to the campus community. But then we also do partner with Feeding South Dakota. So we can only store so much food. And so we wanted to make sure that we were giving back to the community as a whole as well. So any extra food, we fill our pantry on campus. And then, any extra food we donate to Feeding South Dakota here in Rapid City. We do collect money as well, and those funds go into our campus food pantry fund. That's really the only way that fund gets money is through this fundraiser. We have, tried to promote it in the past, to alum or people that could donate to it, but we just haven't seen a ton of traffic. So this is a big way we can make sure that we can buy some food during the year. Instead of just gathering it at this one time.
So I've been at the school one year when the students were bringing in the food, like they were done with their time at the stores. And what I found so interesting was it was almost like clown cars. Like they'd pull up in their cars and they are packed with food, like boxes or tubs or whatever they have. But there might be 3 college students in there too, and there's just food everywhere. And it's almost like a puzzle to get them out of it. But am I right that there might be a little bit of competition between the service groups? Because I remember distinctly, like they lined it up in rows, and then there's a process of weighing to see who brings in the most pounds.
You are correct. Okay. Yeah, so we do make it a little bit of a competition. It is between the student orgs on that day. So you're right, they bring them in, and we have a wonderful org that has been our weigh team for the past couple years.
It's very legit. Like there's a scale, there's a certain scale, and nobody touches anything.
That's right.
Yes.
They're like, everybody back up.
Yes.
But so that does happen. And honestly, they don't really get any prize other than recognition.
It is just the bragging rights.
It's just the bragging rights. And then we also have, in the past couple of years, made a competition for on-campus departments as well. So we'll put out the food drive bins on campus locations, anybody that wants one. And then they have a little competition of who collects the most up to MLK Day.
So for the food drive, do you have like a reigning champion, like a multi-year champion, or does it really vary?
That's a good question. It has varied recently since I've been here, which is probably about 5 years. SPS has probably won the most, and that's probably just like 2 out of the 5 years.
What's SPS?
Society of Physics Students.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. Sounds good.
Yeah, and then this year, Beta Delta Mu won.
Okay.
And there is a little bit of a controversy too about what store you're placed at.
Oh, yeah,
like...
I wonder. Like, there's got to be these. I think of Girl Scout cookies. Like, you've got your prime locations where you want to go.
Yeah.
And it might make a little bit of a difference.
Right.
But what is really great, you talked about kind of the list of needs, and so these students are standing outside. People are coming in to shop, and they're able to provide a list that says, hey, would you consider donating? Here's the food we need. So while the customer is shopping, they can throw some extra cans of green beans or Easy Mac, whatever it is, in their cart and just put that in the donation on the way out the door. And that's really a really great way to just capture it in the moment. And I imagine probably leads to a lot of the success of the food drive.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I think honestly just being there in person too, like, some sort of like on campus, we just put the bins out, but there's nobody really like, saying every day, hey, you should bring in some food.
Yeah,
or,
here's why this is important.
Right, yeah. So I think the students being able to be there while, the shoppers are going in and out is really cool as well, because then they're like, hey, what are these kids doing, and then they can explain, hey, we're college kids get hungry too.
Yes.
And we're trying to collect this food for not only us, but for feeding South Dakota. And so I think that's really cool exposure for them. Just to be able to get that community service face to face.
So, do you know how many pounds of food was collected this year?
We do, yeah. It was just shy of 2,100. I think this is right. 2,084 pounds.
All right.
Yeah, so
that's a good number.
Yeah.
In 3 hours.
3 hours in, freezing cold temperatures.
Freezing cold temperatures.
We were like, is anybody going to come to the store? It's like, nobody wants to go out.
This could be a bust this year, but it turned out great.
Yeah, and that is an amount that we see pretty much every year, is around that 2,100. So yeah, it turned out great. And we actually raised more money this year as well.
Oh, good.
So that was really awesome.
Good. So tell me a little bit about when I was there, and maybe it's changed. I remember the pantry was kind of in a hallway, and it was some shelving in the hallway, and just to make it easy for students to just kind of walk on. But it wasn't in a like super busy place, so there wasn't like this big visual deal of somebody stopping, but kind of on the way by, I could grab a couple things and keep on going. Is it still located like that?
Yeah. You have a good memory. Yes.
Well, it wasn't that long ago, but yeah.
So it's interesting. I actually was just writing up a page kind of executive summary on our pantry for 2 of our faculty who are applying for a grant. So this just happened this week. I was thinking about the location of the pantry. So in our Surbeck Center, which is our traditional student center, student union, there's a couple different hallways, and one tends to be, there's less happening in that hallway. There's a little study space, health services, but beyond that, it's not high traffic. And we found that that's a really good location. It's open 24/7.
Yep.
If a student has their ID, they can get into that building 24/7 and be able to look and use the food pantry without any wandering eyes. We've had several conversations. One of our campus partners that helps us the most with the food pantry is our team of campus ministers.
Oh, sure.
And so they do a lot of the shopping throughout the year to help fill it, and they help manage that fund that Sam mentioned. So we've talked with them, we've talked with student government. Is this the best location? Many other college and university food pantries that you might hear about, it'll be behind a locked door, or it's only open for these limited hours, and it's staffed by a student.
Yes.
So those could be barriers for somebody actually using it.
Yeah.
Because of any perceived shame of going there and having other students see or have to ask permission to get behind that locked door. So we've decided as a community we want to leave it in that open space, tucked away, but open 24/7. I can only think of maybe twice where I've had to ask community members to hey, let's reserve this food for students. That they somehow got in the building, and I knew they weren't a student. So out of 3.5 years, that only happening twice is really...
That's pretty good. So the pantry then is non-perishable items. I imagine there's not a refrigerator freezer in the hallway. I don't remember that there was, but so it's the non-perishable pieces. Are there additional things that you're providing other than food in this space?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. So lately, again with the uptake in needed food insecurity, we've found a need for basic hygiene items as well. So that's something that we've really focused on. That we don't ask for, we don't do necessarily a big drive for like we
Sure.
do for food. But the space is located by the food shelf as well. And in the past few years, I've done grants for it, and so there's a couple of local grants that have been gracious with us and actually helped come organize some bags and pre-made hygiene kits that you
Sure.
can just take off every year and stuff like that. So anything from shampoo, conditioner, razors, bars of soap. We do have period products as well.
Yeah.
Pretty much anything, which is super helpful. That as well has disappeared as soon
Yeah.
as we put it on. So
They're expensive items. It is expensive to keep some of that stuff in stock, but they're very much needed.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to have it kind of paired together. So it's an easy grab and go. So have you noticed in the last year or two, as you've had the Swipe Out Hunger, as you've had, these studies and things, have you noticed a change at all in food insecurity or students on campus as a result of some of this work that you're doing?
It's a good question. Anecdotally, it sounds like the common kitchen spaces are being used more
Good.
often. And I think that makes sense as students are pooling the resources together. Hey, if three of us are roommates,
Yeah.
hey, let's go grocery shopping together,
Yeah.
and then we can supplement what
Sure.
we're using in the dining hall. I'll be curious to see the next round of our National College Health Association data,
Yeah.
because we really have emphasized this as a divisional goal with our colleagues of trying to fight food insecurity and talk about it more openly, get student government on board. So I'm hopeful, but that'll come out next year.
Yeah. Well, and it's I think I talk a lot when I am having conversations for this podcast about community. And we talk in our world about dare I say metro communities, but our bigger Sioux Falls, Rapid City, as opposed to smaller rural communities. And that it's the community that knows best what's needed. And you have really built that within your college in recognizing it and having it be student-led solutions or contributions and to faculty. And so I think that's a really beautiful thing to create this sort of culture of care. Wow. As if you hadn't prompted me. But really to create this culture of taking care of each other and what you do by having that food accessible and having all the other resources is you're helping just to set them up for success. You're normalizing it so people aren't afraid to get the help that they need, and then that is just creating this greater opportunity for them to thrive. And I think that's a really great thing. So thank you for the work that you're doing, because there's not one solution to hunger, and it takes everybody doing the work. It takes everybody having new ideas and finding the different ways to support it in order to help us fight hunger. And hopefully the students you're seeing today who are food insecure, by getting help and being able to complete education, are going to then move out of that food insecurity and be able to provide. So it's a great thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, before I let you go, I have one question for each of you.
Sure.
If South Dakota were a fruit or a vegetable, what would it be and why?
Joe just moved here, so he's
I got my answer though.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah,
all
I do.
right.
Go
Yes,
first.
I do. Okay. So
I honestly didn't give you this ahead of time.
No,
Like,
no.
I didn't tell them ahead of time.
no,
All right.
but no, I'm ready. So I'm gonna say a pomegranate,
Okay.
and I have a few reasons why. So I think a lot of people will look right past it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not gonna buy a pomegranate. That's not a common thing. A lot of people won't give South Dakota too much thought, but I think when you do, and you carve into it. I know it's a little bit of work to get the fruit out, the little seeds. It's very rewarding. It's amazing.
This is
You
good.
see how sweet that is, and how amazing South Dakota. I know you got to follow this up.
Sorry,
Right?
Sam.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say pomegranate is a little bit underappreciated.
Okay. Where did you come from, Joe? If you have been in South Dakota the whole time.
Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut.
Okay.
And then I was most recently living and working in North Carolina before I took the job here.
Oh, wow. You've really made a transition.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take the pomegranate. I take it as a compliment.
Oh, absolutely. It was meant as
Yes. Yeah, awesome. What do you have, Sam?
Yeah, that was amazing. I'm actually like totally, I mean, not totally, but a little bit opposite. So I was actually thinking, like, my first thought was an apple because, you know, apples are so commonplace, but they have tons like of nutrients, and so my kids love apples, and I tell them, you know, I actually tell them that we should give people apples, right? Like, I'm like, give away an apple a day to your friends. Like, it'll make them stronger, healthier. It'll make them smile. And so I guess that common type of fruit just makes me kind of think of the people of South Dakota. Like, we are those community builders, and there's not somebody that's not afraid to, you know, give you a helping hand if you need. So.
You both did great. They're both great.
Thank you.
I think it's wonderful. We've had a variety of answers. We've had apple before, not pomegranate, but we've also had some unique answers. So you're not the most unique, but I do appreciate the out of the box thinking. So, well, thanks for being here today, and thank you for joining us for this episode of 50 Faces of Feeding South Dakota. I hope you've had the opportunity to learn more about college hunger that's common not just here in South Dakota, not just at School of Mines, but around the nation. And if you have an opportunity to provide support to a college student that you know, or on a college campus, if you're an alumni and you have a way to support a pantry or anything that's going on to fight hunger, I hope you're able to reach out and do so. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode.